All right, guys, so talking to you today really quick about some setup basics. I'm going to touch a little bit on a 7-iron and like your highest lofted wedges all the way up to a 3-iron and driver. So just hold on tight for me, okay? So when we get into setup basics, starting with your highest lofted wedge all the way to a 7-iron, I'm going to throw a stick on the ground, or I could use another club if I really want to. I use these alignment rods. You can get them at Home Depot, Lowe's, you can get them inside the golf shop at Miles of Golf. Doesn't really matter. But having something to reference ball position, in my opinion, is super important. I watch a lot of people come in for lessons, and the ball position moves from shot to shot, and they can't figure out why they're not, everyone's favorite word, consistent enough. That has a lot to do with it. So as we start to go through practice, let's get something to help us measure where we're going and how we're kind of going about these things. Okay, so with that being said, grabbing your highest lofted wedge to up, like I said, up into about 7-iron, potentially 6-iron. I'm gonna have this ball position just forward of center. Okay, so closer to my lead foot than my trail foot. For us right-handed players, I personally would tell you I want it somewhere right, like just outside your left nostril. Okay, that tends to be a very good starting point for most of us. As we get into longer clubs, like if I take my 7-iron out and I transition into a 3-iron, I would then start to take that ball and shift it a little bit more forward. I personally play it about a club head or so off of my lead heel. Again, this is a 3-iron. That'd be the same spot that I'd also be playing my 4 or my 5-iron potentially. All right, so that's not really going to change all that much. If I swap over to driver really quickly, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to move the ball a little more forward. Again, now it's the stick you can see is pretty much right off of my left heel. And from there, that's where I'm going to get set up with my driver and probably, honestly, realistically, my 3-wood. If my 3-wood's any different, I might be about a ball off of that stick with my 3-wood. I really don't play it all that much differently. But for most players, we might move it back about a ball, maybe a ball and a half off of that lead heel as well. Okay. Now, really quickly, though, let's transition back over to my 7-iron really fast, get kind of set up here. A couple things that I noticed from a lot of players watching a lot of you guys in lessons and practice and things. When we get set up, everyone likes to take the handle of the club and point it straight at their belt buckle, or it's like straight up and down like the shafts in a straight line. That's not really how this club is designed to be used. When we start measuring loft on the club face and we get on the Lion loft machine, it's actually measured from here. You'll notice the shaft's actually got a little bit of angle to it. If I take that same angle and place it back on the ground behind the golf ball, you'll notice the handle or the grip of the club actually sits a little bit ahead of the golf ball. And you can see on the ground there, referencing with the stick, my hands are definitely ahead of that stick. My hands are not in line with that stick, and they're sure as hell not going to be behind the stick. So making sure that we get set up in the right place will definitely allow us to utilize this tool correctly. Again, swapping over that 3-iron and moving my ball position a little forward, you're going to notice the exact same thing though. My hands are a little bit ahead of the golf ball. They're not as ahead as you saw with my 7-iron. Why? Well, the ball position is moved more forward. But this butt end of the club is still pointing just inside my left hip. Again, if I grab that 7-iron again really quickly to make that point, you'll notice when I set up here, the butt end of that grip points just inside my left hip as well. Okay. Again, we're going to use that as a reference point because as I go to my driver, and what we just learned, as I move the ball position forward, it's not like I'm pulling my hands back and I'm really not going to push them more forward with my driver. I need that butt end of the club to reference that left hip still, right about here. So now, relative to my golf ball, what do you notice? My hands and the golf ball are almost right in line with each other. My hands don't start out in front of my golf ball with shaft lean. I don't start with my hands behind the drive or behind the golf ball. All right, my hands actually with driver, because of the way the ball is positioned, my hands are starting pretty much right in line with the golf ball. Okay, so when we start talking about setup basics and some of those things, ball position and how we get set up, where the handle's positioned and all of those things can definitely play a big factor into how you guys hit the golf ball and where it goes. We'll continue to talk about some setups. We'll talk about posture and things like that as we keep going through Practice Club. But I feel like this is a great starting point for a lot of you guys. And if any of you have questions, you're always more than welcome to reach out to me via email, text me, flag me down during practice club, whatever you need to do, and we'll continue to help you, progress through your games this winter.